You want to be prepared for anything, so you fill your pantry. But without refrigeration, you are running against the clock. What if I told you that there are foods out there that won't expire for decades? These are 17 prepping foods that will never expire. Number 17. Pure maple syrup. Pure maple syrup is often overlooked in survival circles, but it is, in fact, something that might never expire. Unlike pancake syrup, which is mostly high fructose corn syrup and water, the real deal is boiled down until the sugar concentration is high enough to kill off most microbial life. Unopened glass bottles can sit on a shelf for years without losing their woody, complex flavor. If you eventually open a bottle and find a tiny bit of surface mold, don't throw it out. You can simply skim the top, bring the syrup to a brief boil, and it's perfectly safe again. Number 16. Pemmican. Invented by the indigenous peoples of North America, pemmican is arguably the most interesting survival food ever created. It is a mixture of lean, dried meat that has been pounded into a powder and mixed with rendered fat. Because the meat is bone dry and the fat acts as a complete seal against oxygen, pemmican can last for decades without refrigeration. Explorers and fur traders lived on this stuff for months at a time because it provides the perfect balance of protein and energy. It doesn't look like much, but a small bar can keep a person moving through the harshest conditions. Number 15. Hardtack. Known to history as sea biscuit or pilot bread, hardtack is the ultimate survival fuel. It's essentially a water and flour biscuit baked multiple times until it is bone dry. Because almost all moisture is removed, mold and bacteria have no medium in which to grow. It's famous for being hard enough to dent your pride and, if you aren't careful, your teeth. But if you soak it in a soup or coffee, it softens into a reliable, high-density calorie source. Number 14. Ghee. Regular butter has a fatal weakness. It contains water and milk solids that eventually turn rancid. Ghee, which is clarified butter, removes both through a long, slow simmering process, leaving behind pure, stable fat. This lack of water means fewer spoilage pathways and a much higher smoke point for high-heat cooking. When kept in a sealed jar in a cool, dark place, ghee is a calorie-dense fat source that stays fresh far longer than any commercial spread. Number 13. Canned cured meats. While we usually think of dry goods, certain canned meats are unmatched for their longevity. Items like Spam or canned corned beef are heat processed and sealed in a vacuum, making them virtually immortal as long as the can isn't bulging or rusted. The salt content acts as a secondary preservative. While the texture might soften after a decade, the protein remains intact. These are the cheat codes for when the power goes out and you can't hunt or fish for fresh protein. Number 12. Whole peppercorns. Ground pepper turns into flavorless dust after just a few months. Whole peppercorns, however, possess a hard outer shell that seals the flavorful oils inside. This natural packaging keeps the spice fresh for years, if not decades. By grinding only what you need for a meal, you ensure that your food stays flavorful and alive even when the world outside feels a bit bland. Spice is more important than you might think. It's a tool to prevent appetite fatigue, a real condition where people stop eating survival rations because the food gets too boring. Number 11. Green tea. Unsurprisingly, tea doesn't rot, but it does fade away. Because the leaves are aggressively dried, bacteria can't survive on them. While the flavor might diminish after a few years if exposed to air, properly vacuum-sealed green tea can stay active for a long time. Tins are much better than cardboard boxes for keeping your leaves away from kitchen odors and humidity. It also provides a gentle caffeine lift without the crash often associated with heavy coffee use. 10. Instant coffee. Morning routines are often the first thing to crumble in a crisis, but caffeine withdrawal is a headache you don't need when you're trying to secure your home. Instant coffee is dehydrated and sealed, leaving nothing for microbes to attack. While oxygen might slowly dull the aroma over time, the safety and caffeine content remain intact for years. It is perhaps the most traded item in any long-term disaster scenario. Number 9. whole wheat berries. Most people store flour, but flour goes rancid because the oils in the wheat are exposed to air. But if you store the whole, unground grain, it remains in a dormant state. These kernels have been known to sprout even after years of storage. To use them, you'll need a hand-cranked mill to turn them into fresh flour. This ensures you have the highest possible nutrition and a bread source that won't fail you when the grocery store shelves are empty. Number 8. Dried seaweed. Dried seaweed, or nori, is a survivalist's secret weapon. It is naturally salty and packed with iodine, a mineral that is hard to find in other shelf-stable foods, but is crucial for thyroid health. Because it is completely dehydrated, it stays shelf-stable for years. It takes up almost no space and can be crumbled into rice or soups to add a savory sea flavor and a massive hit of vitamins. Number 7. Powdered milk. Powdered milk solves the issue that regular milk has by stripping away the water that bacteria need to thrive. When stored in a cool, dry place, non-fat powdered milk can stay usable for up to 20 years. Pro tip: divide your stash into smaller jars so you aren't exposing your entire supply to humidity every time you open it for a single scoop. Number 6. Dried lentils. Lentils are an awesome choice when fuel for cooking is limited. Unlike most beans, they require no soaking and cook in a fraction of the time. They're a powerhouse of folate, protein, and iron. Because they have very little oil, they don't go stale like other grains. Seal them in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and you've got a meal that's ready to go even 10 years down the line. Number 5. Dried beans. In a real emergency, you need protein, and dried beans are the ultimate muscle food. They're packed with fiber and iron, and because they're dried down to a very low moisture content, they stay shelf-stable for years. Don't trust the flimsy plastic bag from the store, though. Move them into airtight jars or buckets. Even if they require longer cooking times after a decade, they never lose their core nutritional value. Number 4. White sugar. Sugar is essentially a desert for germs. It's so effective at grabbing and locking up moisture that it's used to preserve fruits in jams and syrups. The only real enemy here is humidity, which can turn your sugar into a literal rock. But even if it clumps, it hasn't spoiled. Just break it up and it's good as new. Number 3. Salt. Long before it was a tabletop seasoning, salt was used as currency. There is nothing alive in a salt crystal for bacteria to feed on. Whether you're using it for flavor, curing meat, or pickling vegetables, salt is your electrolyte backbone. To keep it forever, just keep it dry. Moisture is the only thing that turns salt into a brick, though even then, it's still perfectly safe. It is the one thing on this list you truly cannot live without. Number 2. White rice. While brown rice is often touted for health, it's a ticking time bomb in long-term storage because of its oily bran layer. White rice, however, is a survival superstar. When you strip away that oil, you are left with a pure starch that can last 30 years or more. The trick is the no-air lifestyle. Seal it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers to keep it fresh for the next generation. It is the foundation upon which survival calories are built. Number 1. Raw honey. Archaeologists have famously uncovered pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old, and remarkably, it's still edible. Honey is nature's perfect preservative. It plays a dirty game against bacteria by having almost zero moisture and a naturally acidic pH. Microbes simply can't get a foothold. If your honey turns grainy, don't panic. That's just crystallization. Gently warm the jar in a bowl of water and it'll return to its liquid gold state instantly. So these are the foods that won't let you down. Stockpiling them is a must. For more prepping tips and tricks, make sure to subscribe to our channel.